The Vitality Cut is a salon-friendly haircut that reduces weight around the face to give you more height and increase shine. It can be worn curly, wavy or straight and works well with or without a fringe. Start by taking a radial line. This will start from the ear on your dominant hand, work its way over the highest point of the head and return to the same point on the opposite ear. Make sure that the grooves are travelling over the head in the direction that you want, parallel to your mirror. Place your hand on the opposite ear and use the comb to direct yourself from the ear that you're starting from over the highest point of the head back to the opposite ear. Leave the front zone in its grooves setting on the head. There's no need to twist this away. Comb the back into the shape that you're going to be cutting. Then clip the front away in situ. Notice how the left hand is cupping the hair, with all the hair being combed into it. Place your guest's head slightly forwards and comb the hair in a horizontal shape, parallel to the floor or the ceiling. What you're looking for here is a horizontal section that starts behind the ear at the masteroid process, follows the occipital bone and reaches the same point behind the opposite ear. When you take this first section, make sure it's at least 3 fingers higher than the hairline. This is because some of the hair at the back there could be damaged or broken, and if you use that as your guide, you'll end up with a shorter haircut than anticipated. The hair at the centre of this section will be cut on its natural form. As we work into the sides, you will see that the hair is pulled back slightly, enabling us to cut the hair parallel to the ceiling and the floor. Note how our guest is stood up for this process. Hairdressing can be very demanding on your back. One of the reasons we get them to stand up is to save our back, but it will also enable us to get a nice straight line when the guest is stood up. A line can look very different from when a guest has been sat down to the moment that they stand up. This is preferential to how you like to cut hair. However, it's recommended that if the hair is shoulder length or below, we get the guest to stand up while cutting our external lengths. Comb the hair down and use your comb as a guide for cutting in a nice straight line. Make sure that you can see enough of the previous section so you don't cut into your guide. And as you come to the sides of this section, make sure that you're pulling the hair back and cutting parallel to the ceiling and the floor. Use both hands to check the balance on both sides. A good tip for this is to actually close your eyes and feel it. Sometimes our eyes can lie to us. So just feel that the balance is correct on the left side and the right side, and that we have it nice and even. So as we work into the top, you shouldn't need to take so many sections. The internal lengths from the previous haircut should still be shorter in this instance than the external lengths that we've just cut. So comb it down and just make sure that you can see your external lengths from the previous section that you've already taken as a guide. Zone 2 is where we start to focus on our internal lengths. Use the ceiling and the floor as a visual guide for this section. Make sure you're checking your tension from the roots, the mid bands and the ends, and cut just above on the outside of your fingers. If the section is too big, take it in two. If you have large hands, you may be able to get away with doing it with just one. Our numbering pattern is 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1. So everything is pulled back to the center. And when you do that, it's really important that you stand on the side that you're over directing to. That means that you need to stand on the side of number 1. So as number 2 comes into number 1, you're checking the tension at the roots for section number 1. Tension has two meanings when you're cutting hair. Number 1 could be how tight you're holding the hair between your fingers, and number 2 is how much pressure you're putting on the hair as you pull it away from the scalp. Whatever you start with, it's good to maintain an even tension for both of the reasons throughout the whole haircut. If you do this, you'll create a nice even balance and fluidity from start to finish. As you finish each zone, make sure that you cross check, making sure that you haven't missed any stray hairs. Pull the hair up in the opposite angle to the way that you've just cut, but make sure that the hair still comes out of the scalp at the same angle that it was originally cut. If you were to do this at a different angle, you will get a very different result. When this is done, work your way onto the left hand side of zone 2. Following the same process that you did on the right hand side by pulling the hair over from 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1. Everything pulled back to the center section, and make sure that you're stood in the position where you can see the roots for section number 1. As we move into zone 3 on the left and the right hand side, notice how the radial line shifts to behind the ear. This will give us a guide to connect the front zones into the back zones. Comb the hair away neatly at the back, tie it up with a bobble, and this will prevent any snagging as we work our way through the front of the haircut. What you're looking for here is the guide from zone 2. Pull the hair up. When you see the guide, cut parallel to the ceiling and the floor. Make sure that you don't go any lower than 2 to 3 fingers height above the ear. This will stop you from making it too thin or cutting into your external shape. As our numbering pattern is 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, you'll find that section number 1 is going to be your shortest length. As the hair is cross-checked, you'll notice that section number 4 is going to be slightly longer, increasing in length towards the edge of the haircut. Repeat the same process on the opposite side. When that's completed, cross-check the zone, making sure that it's balanced and it matches the opposite side. Working on the full graduation can be challenging for some hairdressers, but this is a proven technique that works to guarantee a great result. Take an arc-shaped section from the corner of one side of the head, pulling the hair towards you to the same point on the corner of the opposite side. You want this section to be about 3 finger width away from the hairline, and then clip it away and comb the hair down. This should be nice and balanced and a really clean section, with all the hair being pulled slightly forwards so we can cut and create the perfect arc shape. As you comb the hair down here, make sure you're not pulling it too tight, because we want to make sure that the hair's sitting relatively naturally. So this first section you take will be the shortest of all of the lengths of hair in this zone. Choose this carefully, as choice of length is really important and is probably the most difficult thing that we have in a haircut. Look at connecting in to the baseline from the hair of the back zones that we did at the beginning of the haircut. Now we can look at connecting the two lengths. Find the right scissor angle and go from your shortest length around the face and connect into the hairline around the baseline of the haircut. In this situation, you'll see that I'm using a blunt cutting technique. You could point cut, you could use a razor, or you can find a technique that works well for you, depending on the hair and the fabric that you're working with. What we're looking for is that perfect arc shaped section. Generally, it takes 2 sections to make the perfect full graduation. So drop your next one down following the same line with the same grooves that you did in the arc shape at the top. You'll see for this section I've switched to a point cutting technique. This is just in case any internal lengths are creeping over the top of the external shape and create a little more softness. Drop the back down, split the hair down a central profile section, pull the hair to its natural fall and just make sure that all the lengths are balanced right around the perimeter of the haircut. Make sure it's even and there's no little longer lengths that are creeping through. Styling is an important part of the process, so we're going to use a smoothing product and a shine product here. Here using the List Control cream, work it into the palms of your hands, size of a 50p piece, maybe a little bit more if it's thicker hair. Work it into the palm of your hands, then work it right through to the back of your hands as well, in between your fingers. And scrunch it into the hair. Just we want to make sure that there's product in the hair from root to tip, combing it through. When your palms of your hands go dry, work it back through your hands again, making sure that all the product goes inside the hair and is evenly distributed. It's worth spending time on the prep. We'll reduce the blow dry time. So the elixir oil is fantastic. Work this again into both sides of your hands. This is going to add shine. It's got 4 oils that are going to nourish and strengthen. And then we come on to blow dry. So I like to use a wet brush, a wide toothed brush, which is going to give you lift at the roots. Hairdryer always being above the head is going to make the hair shiny. It's going to guarantee shine, and what we're looking to do here is just dry the roots. Don't worry about the ends right now. The ends will dry themselves in no time at all. It's the roots that hold the moisture. If you haven't got a brush like this, you can just use your hands, flipping it from side to side. And using a nozzle on the hairdryer to give good directional flow. This is a wrap drying technique, but make sure that the hairdryer is always going in the same direction as the hair. When the roots are 95% dry, get the hairdryer, use a round brush, making sure that we've got good tension at the root. We're concentrating on the roots, the mid bands and the ends. You'll see how the hair's flopping around on the end of the brush. That's how you do a good straight blow dry. If the hair's wrapped around the brush, it will be curly. smooth through with the irons. This hair is particularly fluffy, so any help that we can get to smooth down the hair's cuticle before we do the technique on dry hair will go a long way. Here I'm just using a little bit of the Elixir oil just to give it a little bit more shine, essentially using it like a serum, and in this case you could use a serum if you'd prefer. So now we move on to the third and final part of the hair cutting process, which is the technique on dry hair. We've cut the internal lengths using a club cutting technique. If the hair's fine and wispy, you may just want to leave it as a club cutting technique, but in this case the hair's quite thick, so what I'm going to do is just go through and soften out with a point cutting technique. Raise the hair, keep the tension, and just gently point cut through the ends. It's really important here that you do not change the shape. We're literally just softening out the ends. Pull the hair out, gently let it fall, not putting the hair under too much pressure or too much tension, and literally, as we said before, just soften the ends. By doing this, it gives you another chance to create more shine in the haircut again, because there may be some split ends that we didn't attack with the club cutting technique. And then just very visually just going through and freehanding any areas that may need a little bit more attention. And there you have it, a very simple but effective haircut. Remember, keep the sections clean, follow the process, and you're going to end up with a great result. Good luck, I look forward to seeing your results.